Lots of you joining already. So, Mama Time, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. We are so excited to have you here today. Welcome to our October speed learning session at Retargeting, how to make your mission impossible to ignore. My name is Yulia Zhernovaya. I'm head of growth at Giveffect. Giveffect is 10-in-1 nonprofit platform that was built for nonprofit who want to raise more funds, eliminate silos, and further their mission as we combine donor, volunteer, marketing, grants, and total 10 different pieces that can help your nonprofits thrive in this digital world. And today we're so excited. We have a very special speaker, Kimberly Bottom from Feather. So Kimberly, I'm going to pass it to you to introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you, Yulia. So happy to be here and chat with all of you about ad retargeting. My name is Kimberly, and I'm the Director of Community Engagement at Feather. So, Feather, we call ourselves a nonprofit marketing platform, but as many of you in the room probably realize, marketing is not always an entire department, or like Yulia alluded to, you might be doing marketing and a bunch of other things. So, really, what Feather does is get your message in front of people where they live, which is online, right? We're looking at a screen 8 hours a day now. So we just help, and again, this is what we're going to talk about today, help people get that message in front of people as they live their lives over and over again to help get those busy, distracted humans to engage with your nonprofit a little more.
Fantastic. Well, before we jump into our conversation, I just wanted to share a couple of housekeeping items. So this is the speed learning session. It's only 30 minutes. It goes so fast. And then what we do is we spend about first 20 minutes for a conversation. We have lots of questions from registration form. And then the last 10 minutes, it will be open to everyone who is joining us live for live Q&A. So as we go through the session, please don't wait till the last moment. Utilize the Q&A button on the bottom of your screen and add your questions as we go. And we'll try to answer as many questions as possible within our time today. So without further ado, let's dive in. Kimberly, let's start again. And yes, we have our colleague, lastly, I'm going to add Tara in the chat who is helping with moderation. So if you have any issues or questions, please feel free to chat with Tara. But let's dive in. Kimberly, again, we have in nonprofits, right? You may be juggling so many different hats, or even if you're in marketing, right? Not everyone maybe too familiar with ad retargeting.
Mm-hmm.
So before we go into nitty-gritty details, I wanted to start off and ask, what exactly is ad retargeting and why is it such a powerful tool for nonprofits?
Right. So even if you're not familiar with the term ad retargeting, you have almost certainly experienced it. All it is the internet makes a note about what you care about, and then it serves that message to you over and over and over again. So anybody here that's an online shopper, if you have Googled an item, shoes, a blouse, etc., and then you go to look up a recipe for dinner and there's the blouse on the website. You check the weather in the morning and the blouse is there again, right? That's ad retargeting. So, digital advertising is what it is. And the website that you were on had a little piece of code that tracked that behavior and it said, hey, this cell phone looked at this blouse. This person's clearly interested in this blouse, and I want to sell this blouse. So I'm going to remind them how amazing it is as they go to every other website. What nonprofits might not realize is that it's not that hard to do that for fundraising. So just like if somebody went to your donation page, let's say that this cell phone went to your donation page and didn't donate, that person's probably interested in donating. They're not there by accident, but they got distracted, right? You're able to use that same technology to send them messages that says, come back and donate, come back and support us. So at a very base level, that's what it is. It's just reminding busy humans to do an action just the way consumer brands do it.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. And as we are right now in end of October and right before the busiest season of the
Yes.
year, why would you say, I guess it is especially important to consider ad retargeting right now?
Especially because there is so much noise, right? There is so much else going on. Not only is it giving season for nonprofits, it's consumer season. It's time to shop for Christmas or Kwanzaa or Hanukkah or whatever you celebrate. And people are so distracted with everything else going on. Getting your
Mm,
message in front of them more often is even more important this time of year. But I hear what you're saying in your head, right? If you're a nonprofit professional going, I literally can't do one more thing without my head exploding, right? Like I'm already busy enough. The good news about this is that because it's digital, it's automated. So you basically say, if somebody visited
mm,
my donation page and they left without donating, what would I want to say to them? What would I tell them to get them to come back? You
love
make
that.
that message, you hit a button, and the robots essentially monitor your website 24 hours a day and serve those messages automatically
Mm.
on your behalf. So it might sound overwhelming, but it's actually a very simple process.
Wow. Okay. It does sound quite simple, as you explained it. But speaking of that, many now, including myself, to be honest, or just in speaking with many nonprofits, when they hear digital ads, like a lot of times it sounds technical
Yes.
and or expensive. So
Mhm.
can you explain maybe in like without going too much into nitty-gritty and simple terms,
Mhm.
how retargeting actually works behind the scene?
Absolutely. So, and first of all, it is called digital advertising, which I know in nonprofits
Mm.
doesn't sound like it aligns with what we do. We're not selling things, right? I don't want to advertise. A lot of boards will like be turned off to paid advertising just because it sounds like something
Mm,
we don't do. All it is getting your message in front of somebody time and time again. Think of it that way. So,
okay.
kind of put away the misnomer that digital advertising is not for nonprofits. It's just a vehicle to get your message in front of somebody multiple times over. So, the way that it technically works, just enough to be dangerous, is that you engage with some form of software or technology, right? It can be a free service,
Mhm.
it can be a paid service, it can be, there are a couple different options. So, if you're looking to get into ad retargeting and you want some recommendations, let me know. But essentially, you place a little piece of code that that software generates for you on the back end of your website. That code monitors how devices behave on your website. You might already be doing this. If you already have a Google Pixel on your website to monitor traffic, that's
Mm,
exactly what it is. It's just saying this device, this cell phone, which has a unique ID code, it's able to say this cell phone visited my homepage, then the impact stories, and then my donate page, but they didn't donate. And you can see that journey even though you don't know it's Kimberly Bottom who has that iPhone, right? You don't know who the human is behind the screen yet. But the fact that that phone went to all those places means that they're interested. And that means that now the pixel goes, okay, I want to serve X message to that person because of the way that they behaved, and it can automatically trigger those messages to go out. The best way, in my humble opinion, to do this is what we call programmatic advertising. And that just means that you plug into an ad exchange. So think of it as like a big auction house, right behind the scenes, where you say, I want to reach this kind of person. They went to my website, and then you go in and they say, oh, this person is on weather.com checking the weather. And you go, I put up my little paddle. I want to bid. I want to put, my message in front of them, and I'm willing to pay
mhm.
a fraction
Yeah.
of a penny to do it. And
Uh,
the exchange goes sold. I'll put your message there. And it happens in the blink of an eye. But that's all going on
yeah.
behind the scenes. You don't have to worry about the ad buying where it goes. The programmatic ad exchange basically selects the
Mm,
website based on where that device visits next.
interesting. Okay, sounds good. And then when we were talking, I've heard that there are different approaches,
Hmm.
right? When it comes to ad retargeting, there are email-based, pixel-based, social media retargeting. So can you
Correct.
walk us through the like main types and if an organization never done it, which
Right.
one do they choose to start with?
Which one is the, yeah, exactly, exactly. So there, the pixel based, you need a pixel regardless. The pixel is what tracks the
Okay.
behavior on your website. So whether you're doing it on social media or through an ad exchange, you need some sort of pixel to track. So, but they should provide that to you when you partner with those organizations. And essentially, the one that I would honestly recommend the most to all nonprofits is to retarget your own website. Your website is your storefront. Social media is great. You
Mhm.
might have followers there. They might be active on your posts, but you don't own that data. Facebook owns it. Instagram owns it. LinkedIn owns it.
Mhm.
They're letting you borrow it for now, but they
Mhm.
essentially own it, right? So you can't actually access and use that data in any way that you want to. If let's say you have a really good LinkedIn post, make sure you're including a link that pushes them back to your website because you want them to visit where you can control the messaging, where you can
Mhm.
understand the data and how people behave. So, best practice is always to get them to your website. So, with that in mind, I would say that the best place to start is website retargeting on your own website. So you can do this. There's a couple free services. A lot of them are for profit, technically based. They're not made for nonprofits, but they can
Okay.
work. One of them is called AdRoll. It's AdRoll. It's only
Mhm.
retargeting. You place a pixel on your website and it's able to serve retargeted ads to people that visit. So I'd say starting there, if you're not ready for like a more comprehensive platform that has a little more automation, a little easier to use, but you're looking for something that's kind of low
Mhm.
cost, that's a good place to start. So I would say starting with website retargeting, 100% is where you should start. And then to your point, Yulia, there are other kinds. There's something called CRM
Yeah.
retargeting, which means that you can upload your email list into a system and they can match the device that that email is associated with. So let's say you've got a whole
Oh,
list of
wow.
people that have stopped opening emails for whatever reason. You could upload that list and then serve them ads instead because maybe they're just not good with email anymore. So that's
Mm.
another form of retargeting, ad retargeting that's based off email lists. You can also do retargeting on social media, but again, you have to go through that social media's rules and stipulations in order to do that. So
Mm.
if you're looking for like the most impactful way, I would say start with your own website first.
I see. Okay, sounds good. And then changing the gear a little bit, talking about the ad content itself, right? So what
Yes.
messages or visuals tend to perform best for nonprofits? And
I,
do you have any examples of what good looks like?
I do actually. I brought some examples today of real nonprofits that are using the Feather platform. They have given me permission to share some of their data and some of their creative. So let me share my screen really quickly just to show you some best practices
Good.
for doing that. All right, let's get this pulled up. I'm going to skip ahead. Go ahead a little bit over here. All right, so for ads. So this is what retargeting looks like, right? You visit the IJM website, you're
Mm.
interested in helping women and children, you leave that website and then you go see this message from IJM when you're on weather.com or whatever it might be. How
Mm.
many lives will you impact give today, right? So some of the good design tips for this is that they visited a page, right? They saw a visual. Make sure that the ad
Mm.
matches that visual. You want to use the same elements, not only because it tells a good brand story, but it builds trust. How many times have you thought, oh, this is
Mhm.
interesting, but if I click on it, am I downloading a virus? Am I going to go to the right place? There's a lot of
Mhm.
uncertainty online. So
Yeah.
make sure that I went to the page about women and children. I'm going to be served an ad that includes women and children in the
Mhm.
middle of, we call this middle of the funnel as marketers, because these are people who have been to our website. So they have some knowledge about us somehow because they made it to our website. Now you have to make them understand what their impact is. So rather than continue to
Mhm.
tout, we are the greatest nonprofit for X, Y, and Z reason, it's like, no, you make us great because of X, Y, and Z.
Mhm.
So how many lives will you impact is what IJM chose
I
to do
love
here.
that.
Make
Mhm.
sure that your call to action is clear and simple. So if they've been to the website, let's say that they only made it to the homepage and they didn't go anywhere else. Your message might not be give today. It might be come back and learn more. You want people to trust you and build a relationship with you before you make the ask, because sometimes if you make the ask too soon, it comes off badly. So this one in
Mhm.
particular would be a great call to action if they visited the donate page. Or let's say they went to an impact study and they were reading about a woman or a child that was helped by the International Justice Mission. You might
Mhm.
say support her name, right? Or support something else,
I
a little
see.
more specific, because whether or not we realize it, we're seeing hundreds of these ads a day from
Mhm.
consumers, from everybody else. The more
Yeah.
personalized you make it, the more likely it is to cut through the noise. So
Yeah.
this is an example of general retargeting. And then I want to show you guys
Mhm.
again, the one thing I would love everybody to do, if it's the one thing, which is donation abandonment on your donation page. If people make it to your
Mhm.
donation page, I'm telling y'all, it's not an accident. They didn't accidentally stumble across it, right? That's intent. They are interested in donating. They're just not sure yet, or they're busy and distracted. So when you
Mhm.
create a message, it's almost like the equivalent of the little side eyeball emojis, which is like, I see you, you were here, and I know you're
Mhm.
interested. So I love what the Sea Turtle Conservancy did here, which is they kind of gently called them out. Forget something. I know you're
The
busy,
citadel of
right?
waiting.
Exactly, right?
That's fantastic.
And then I love I call it the slightly savage but still polite. The sea turtles are waiting. Like that's
Mhm.
something that's, oh, I
Mhm.
love sea turtles. They're waiting on me, right?
Yep.
And then the call to action's very specific. Finish donation, complete
Mhm.
donation. It's just saying that, like, you were so close, right? Come back and do it. And then the other thing to note too here Sometimes you'll see those pretty ads that move and shift and that kind of stuff. They're great for catching attention a little closer to the top of the funnel. When you're at the bottom of the funnel and you've
Mhm.
got somebody this close to donating, keep it simple. You want a nice
Mhm.
static ad that has a clear call to action and it's reincorporating the visuals that this person is familiar with because all it is
Mhm.
triggering a reminder in their brain. You don't need to go super
Oh,
fancy. You just want them to be reminded. That's all. So those are a couple
mm.
tips I have for ad design.
Yeah. Well, thank you for those. But I get along those lines, it's like, but how many times do we want to show the ad? Like how many times is too much, I guess, or is
Right?
there any
So the funny
suggestions?
thing
Yeah.
about that is if whatever you think is too much, double it. And it's just because
Okay.
you might be underestimating how busy and distracted we are. I used to be in news. I was a news producer for many years, and back then, which
Mm,
was I don't even want to say how many years ago, it was a while. It was 7 to 10 touches to get somebody to even absorb the
mhm.
message that's in front of them. It's not
Okay.
even to take action, it's just to comprehend what they're seeing.
Oh,
After the pandemic, that doubled. It's now 10 to 15 touches at a minimum for
wow.
someone to even realize that they saw it. So if you're asking somebody to donate and actually take action, double, triple, quadruple that. We see many of our nonprofit clients at the bottom of the funnel, that, like, for example, that Sea Turtle Conservancy one you
Hmm.
just saw, I
Yeah.
might serve that to somebody 40 times over the course of 2 weeks. And I know that
Wow.
that sounds like a lot, but when you see hundreds of ads every day, it's like a gentle
Mhm.
tap on the shoulder. And it's actually a breath of fresh air outside of all the consumer-based ads that we are seeing. So the good news is the platform that you're using should have a level of AI that judges the interaction with that person. If they keep clicking your ad, we're going to keep serving the messages.
Mhm.
If they stop engaging with your ads, we're going to stop serving the messages because clearly they're not interested
I
anymore.
see.
So there
Interesting.
is automation that will serve it based on behaviors, but you can absolutely, like, for example, in the Feather platform, we have frequency caps. If you're like, I don't want to be that guy, and you say, under no circumstance do I not want anybody to see more than 30 ads, you can set the cap within that platform.
Ah, okay. So now technology allows you to really play around and kind of like
It
set
does.
it
I'd
up.
say always test first. Before you assume that 30 ads is too
Mm,
many, try it and then see if you're right or wrong.
I see. Wonderful. Interesting. So if we're talking about nonprofit who might consider ad retargeting for the first time, is there any pitfalls that you've seen?
Pitfalls. I hate to say
Oh,
this because,
pitfall.
yes, yeah, no, no, you're fine. I hate to say this because I know that budgets are always going to be an issue, right?
Hmm.
But I'd say if there's one thing that I see is that people don't invest enough or they don't give it enough time.
Okay.
Retargeting isn't like a magic bullet, right? It's not going to work. It's not going to turn it on and the donations just start raining in, right? I wish that was how it worked. We are dealing with people. People take time to do
Mhm.
things. So, what I would say is that make sure that you are not expecting retargeting to start converting right away, right? So, I would say, first of all, invest at least a few $100s, if not closer to 1,000. The
Okay.
sweet spot, I would say, for, let's say we're retargeting your donation page during giving season. So that's 4 to 6 months, right, of retargeting your donation page. I'd say if you can, set your budget somewhere between $500 to $1,000 for that entire 6 months and just let it go in the background. You should have, like, a Feather does this, but other tools do as well, where the campaign will shut off if it reaches its limit. So it won't overspend on your
Mhm.
behalf. But that's about it. It's, between that 500 to $1,000 for 3 to 6 months is a sweet spot to see if it's going to be effective for you. And that will also depend on, hey, how many people do you really have on your website already? Like, if you
Right.
don't have a
Right.
ton, if you have less than 500 website visitors every month, retargeting might not be very effective for you yet because there's just not enough people to reach out to. And you might have to do some audience expansion and audience building to make that more
Mhm.
impactful. But I would say time and enough budget are the
Yeah.
things that are going to make retargeting work well for you.
Makes sense. Makes sense. That's perfect. Thank you so much for that advice. That like very, timeline wise and budget wise gives some perspective in terms
Yes.
of, we all know how budgeting works. So that's
Yes.
that's a really fantastic, fantastic example. So I have a couple more questions before we go into live Q&A. One of them is aside from, okay, so let's say we actually launched the retargeting campaign. So what metrics or indicators should nonprofit focus on to know if their retargeting campaign is working?
Yes, I would say this is so important to understand because I will tell you what your board or your leadership want, and it's donations, right? And you're like,
Yeah,
that's a successful
exactly.
campaign, and 100% that can be it. But before the donations happens, there are other metrics to pay attention to see if
Mhm.
it's working. Because again, 3 to 6 months, you don't want to get to 6 months and be like, no donations. I guess it didn't work when all there might have been other indicators that you could have made a change to make it more effective. So when you start serving digital ads, you want to look for impressions on those ads. They're either called impressions or
Okay.
views, and that just means that we can tell that somebody saw the ad. It crossed by them long enough for them to see it. So you want your impressions to start going up, right? Wherever they start, you want
Hmm.
them to
Hmm.
continually tick up. If they're not ticking up, it might be an issue with deliverability, right? So like you're using a
Hmm.
platform that's not putting in enough places, or you're only serving them on Facebook, and Facebook is not a good platform for you, right? So think about
Right.
distribution if you don't have enough impressions. After impressions, you want clicks, right? People not only saw it, but they actually took action and clicked the ad. That's usually the acronym is CTR, which is click through rate. So let's say that
Hmm.
your impressions are good, but you're not getting any clicks. That might be a messaging issue. That might mean the person saw it, but whatever you put in front of them isn't interesting to them. So you might want to think about
Hmm.
how you deliver that message. And sometimes it can be formatting too, right? The donate button on the top versus the bottom can make a big difference in terms of our human psychology.
Wow.
So testing with formatting and messaging, if you're not getting clicks, is the next step. Now let's say you're getting good impressions, you're getting good clicks on your ads, but you're not raising donations. People are going to your donate page and they're not doing the thing. Maybe it's a form issue. Do you have 20 fields on that form and they get through 5 and go, "Oh my gosh, this is too much work." Right? Or maybe your website is not user friendly and they're confused about what to do, or you're not sending them to the right place. So again, as
Hmm.
you go through the journey of impressions to clicks to actual donations, there are things that you can look at, test, and adjust before you just wait 6 months and go, well, we didn't raise any money, it must not work for us, right? You've
Yeah.
got to look
Hmm.
as
Hmm.
you take that journey.
Wow. Right. Okay, that sounds fantastic. Lots of things to keep in mind as you go. Last question, and actually it's one of the questions on the Q&A, so we might transition as well. We are again very close to end of year-end season, but there's still a little bit of time. There's a
A
couple
little
of
bit.
months there. So if someone does want to, try it, start it, begin it, like where did you go? What can they do to, I guess, start?
100%. So I would say that based on your budget, and if you're like, hey, you know what, I have marketing spend to use, I would
Mm-hmm.
say that go with a paid platform. Feather is one, HubSpot is another, but it's for profit and it's a little more expensive. A platform that is a little bit more comprehensive and easy to use if you already have marketing dollars kind of allocated to that, and they will help you get set up super fast, right? If you're like, I don't think I have budget set aside for this, I need something that's really cost effective, something like an ad roll would be better because it is free to use,
Okay.
but what they're going to do is mark up your ad spend. So you do have to pay the websites, obviously, to serve your message. Again, that's what that $500 to $1,000 budget is for.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you gave $1,000 to a Google Ads, which is free, or an ad roll, which is free.
Mm-hmm.
They might take 400 of it as their cut and then spend the 600 on your
Mm-hmm.
behalf. So when you're using free platforms, remember they're not totally free. They are still making money because they're businesses, but they are easy to get going because you don't have an upfront cost. They are a little harder to
Mm-hmm.
use because they're not as focused on retaining customers, right? And that level of customer
Mm-hmm.
service. So a platform is better for overall strategy, easy to use, human support. But if you want to get started,
Mm-hmm.
with something free to begin with, like an ad roll or a Google Ads would be good to
Yeah.
go.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So we have a question also from Leanne. Can you talk a bit more about Meta Facebook retargeting? Is that the same as website tracking code?
So when you're looking at Meta retargeting, what you're doing is taking a pixel that Meta provides you, placing it on your website, and when someone visits your website and then goes to Facebook, they will serve
Mm.
them an ad, but it is only on Facebook. So remember the ad exchange auction situation that I was talking about? That's not
Mhm.
what Facebook retargeting is or Meta retargeting is. They can only serve ads on their platform, but the pixel allows them to monitor your website and make sure if somebody who visits your website goes to one of their platforms, they can talk to that person. So if you
Mhm.
know that you have a really good, solid, like Facebook or Instagram community, that might actually be a really good option for you. Because again, it is free until you start paying the ad spend. But if you're looking for a little bit broader reach, let's say that you want to engage like the younger generation and you don't think that they're going to be on
Mhm.
Facebook or Instagram, and or actually if you want to engage the older generation, like they might spend a little time on Facebook, but I'll tell you what they're doing more. They're reading the news, they're looking at the weather, they are looking up recipes for dinner, right? All of those additional websites, you need an ad exchange to serve onto those particular
Mhm.
platforms. So meta retargeting can be great because, again, low cost to get started, but it really kind of like limits the reach that you have in terms of where you can serve those
Mhm.
messages.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that, Kimberly.
Mhm.
All right. We also have a question from Trisha. Which company service has the ability for us to upload our email list to target ads to? I think earlier you were mentioning the
The
CRM.
CRM retargeting. Yes, exactly, exactly. Not to be self-promoting, Feather does do that. We call it email mapping or CRM retargeting. That one in particular is a little bit more complex in terms of how the technology works. So I'll tell
Mhm.
you what, Trisha, Tara is going to share my information after this. Let me do a little bit of research and see if I can find another
Mhm.
alternative to a Feather that would allow you to do CRM retargeting. I know they're out there, but I don't want to recommend one that I don't know a lot
Mhm.
about because a lot of these for-profit advertising suites are just not a good fit for nonprofits. Obviously, the way that we
Mhm.
talk to donors is very different than the way that you talk to consumers. So you definitely want to make sure that the platform that you have enables you to talk to them in the way that you want to talk to them and not, become an annoyance or anything like that.
Yeah. Right. Thank you so much for that,
Yeah.
Kimberly. And then the last question, and if anyone has, last minute burning question, you can still add it in the Q&A section. But what we have here is when building out display banner ads in Google, is there an option to add retargeting to that display campaign? Same question for Meta paid ads.
So both Google and Meta have retargeting
Mhm.
pixels. So you just have to go through their systems to get a pixel generated that you can then put on your website so that they can serve display ads on your behalf. There are options for that. I am not
Mhm.
inherently like very deep in the weeds familiar with that process. I wish I could tell you like, oh, you just go over here and click this. But I'm sure you could find help desk articles to help you get a pixel generated for retargeting on those two platforms.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much, Kimberly.
Mhm.
All right. And the last question I'm gonna put it from here is, I think this one is for everyone. How do you raise above the noise? What will get donors' attention? If you have any last
Yep.
advice for everyone who's here on the call today.
I do. So I would say that the highest converting clients for Feather in particular when they do retargeting are people that have their message on lock. And what I mean by that is that you're segmenting your audience properly and creating personalized messaging based on who they are. So you're going to talk to a major donor different than a recurring donor. You're going to talk to somebody that hasn't donated in a year very differently than you're going to talk to somebody that just donated 2 months ago. So when you're thinking about reaching donors, retargeting is the vehicle, content is still king. What you're actually putting in front of them is what's going to get them to act. So I would say segment your lists really intentionally based on who they are and what their behaviors are and what part of your story they resonate with. For example, Christian Relief Fund works with Feather. They have a sponsor a child option and a clean water fund option. Those are two different ways to give. If somebody visited the clean water page and you're serving them something about sponsoring a child, they're not going to even see that message because it has nothing to do with what they care about. So, the way that you get donors' attention is to understand them, look at the data about how they've behaved with you over the past, and then make sure the message is very targeted to them. And then something like retargeting, the robots can take over and make sure the right message gets to the right person. But that's
Yeah.
why AI and retargeting is never going to replace humans because you know your donors. This is just the way to get it in front of them. The way that you position your nonprofit is what's really going to drive them to act.
I love that. Thank you so much. I think that was such a great question to wrap up today's session. So
Mhm.
if anyone wants to get in touch with Giveffect, myself, of course, Kimberly and Feather, our contact information is in the chat. Then Kimberly, people can find you on LinkedIn as
Yes.
well, right? I think Tara put in the information as well.
Yes.
Fantastic. We are going to be sending over the recording with some additional information. So give us a few days and stay just it's coming your way in a couple of days. But otherwise, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us live today. Kimberly, thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge. What a fantastic session. I was full with so much information. I highly recommend for everyone to rewatch it one more time because it was just so many great nuggets.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me, Yulia. Thank you everyone for being so engaged. Please reach out if you have any questions. And just if you want to meet another human. I love to make connections.
Thank you so much, Kimberly. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a fantastic rest of your Wednesday.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Bye now.